This is Atari Living Sacrifice, and today we are going to talk about how just like our favorite video games get patched and change the way the game is played, the same thing happens in our everyday lives. Patches. We don't need no stinking patches. I freaking hate patches sometimes. I was playing a game called For Honor a lot recently. Love the game. Highly recommend the game. It's one of the most unique and intriguing games I have played in a long time. I enjoyed it so much that I actually tried to get good at it. And it takes a lot for a game to intrigue me that much these days. There's just so many options. There's so many games to try out. And you know what? I got pretty decent at it. At one point, I had a win ratio of almost 70% on one-on-one duels. Like that was during my high point in the first season. Definitely better than average, right? Then guess what happened? They started patching the game. They started making all these changes to how the characters reacted and response times between combos and whatnot, and man, did it affect my playing. All those habits that I had developed while learning the game when it first came out no longer applied. My win ratio started to fall and fall and fall, and next thing you know, I'm below 40%. The game's in Season 3 now, and I haven't even tried the new DLC or even tried the new characters because I fear humiliating myself. Even though I know if I just practice using the new builds, I'll eventually get good again. Don't you hate that? Like, we finally start to get good at a game. We finally start to learn the ins and outs and the subtleties, and as soon as we do, things start to change. If I want to keep playing the game well, then guess what? I have to relearn those subtleties all over again, or get left behind. I can complain about it all I want, but the reality is I don't have control over what the developers decide. I don't have control over the developers' final decisions. The reality is some people are going to be happy about the changes and some people aren't. Just like real life, huh? Things change. You know, I've heard it said that the only thing certain in life is death and taxes, and I would like to vote that we add that things are going to change. That's like the third thing. Things are going to change. Things are not always going to stay the same. For example, my wife is different than when I first met her. And if I want a successful marriage, I have to adapt to her as she grows into herself as a person. Business is different now than when I was growing up. The way that social media and the internet has affected the way business is done, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. The technology is being developed at an unprecedented pace. Like, it's happening. Boom, 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 boom. Things are changing. Have you ever heard of a company called Kodak? Kodak, for example. My guess is unless you were born sometime before the year 2000, the answer is probably no. At one point in history, Kodak almost had a monopoly on the world of photography. People literally used to say things like, wow, that's a Kodak moment right there, and what that meant was that's a perfect time to take a picture. Like, that would have been a beautiful moment to capture. I haven't heard someone say Kodak moment in a long time now. Kodak had the branding. They had the infrastructure. They had the bankroll to do more research. And in fact, I learned recently that apparently the guy that invented the digital camera or the digital picture, I'm not sure which, he actually worked for Kodak in the research department. He brought his discovery to his bosses and they said, that's cute. Now, don't tell anyone. Because they feared how it would affect their business. George Eastman was the founder of Kodak, and he was savvy enough to see the writing on the wall back in the old days, back when people were still taking pictures with the big light bulb that you see in the movies, and the light bulb would explode and people would have to sit there and sit still for a long time while their image was burned into what I believe they called dry plates. That's why, in case you were wondering, in those old photos, that's why nobody was smiling in those old pictures, because they would have to hold that smile the whole time, or otherwise it would smudge the photograph, or it wouldn't develop properly. George owned a business in the dry plate world, and George gave up a profitable business in the dry plate photography world when he saw something called film being developed. And then again, he made sure to keep his company up to date when something called color photographs started to come into the world. Even though the color photographs were not half as good as the black and white ones, yet was the key word there. They weren't half as good as the black and white ones, yet he knew that science would eventually find a way. You see, after George Eastman was no longer in control or passed away, the leaders at Kodak, they got stuck in their ways. They got used to doing things a certain way, and they just put their head in the sand while the rest of the photography world passed them by. New companies saw the hole in the market that Kodak left, and they jumped on it. And now, Kodak is no more. I'm going to encourage you listening right now to learn from your experience as a gamer and start to notice the lessons that the universe is trying to teach you in your everyday life. When patches come, and patches to our favorite games will come just as they will in life. As they come, ask yourself, what do you do? What can you do? What are you able to do to adapt and keep up with your fellow gamers, or keep up with your fellow professionals, the other people that you associate? What skill do you need to learn next that will keep you competitive? For example, if you drive vehicles for a living right now, please don't wait until it's too late and pretend like you didn't know that in your lifetime, promise you, in your lifetime, self-driving vehicles will be an everyday part of our lives. I was at an entrepreneur convention at a university recently, and a top executive from State Farm was there, and he was talking about how they were adapting and changing for the upcoming things that are going to be happening in the world with car insurance. He said that eventually the price of car insurance will be included in the cost of purchasing the vehicle, because when accidents happen, it will be the technology's fault and not a human being behind the wheel. It won't be the human being's fault that's behind the wheel. So a huge chunk of State Farm's business will no longer be done the same way. They see the changes coming, and they are taking steps now to adapt. On a side note, before you say, well, I'll just go back to school and get a degree, please make sure that when you do that, go look into what industry is actually hiring, and not just what kind of job you think would be nice for you. I can't tell you how many times I see people spend all this time, all this money and energy to get a new degree, but they never researched. They never looked to see if there's any jobs, like, is that job in demand? You know, they spend all that time and there's no jobs because everyone else thinks, oh, that would be a nice job to have. That would be a fun job to have. I can't tell you how many people I interview nowadays with criminal justice degrees. That's been a big one lately for one reason or another. Apparently college advisors were told to push students into that degree or something. I don't know how it works. I don't know why they would, but I can't tell you how many resumes a day with recent grads I receive in criminal justice. They just graduated with a degree in criminal justice and they can't find a job using that degree. If you are in this situation right now, I would recommend a book called The Coming Job Wars by a guy named Jim Gallup. Okay, so side note over. We don't have control of games that other people or other developers are making. We either have to play by the rules of the game that we're playing, or decide to make a game of our own. And making your own game, or this is a euphemism, by the way, for starting your own business. That's a whole nother topic that we're gonna cover at some point. Now, if you choose to play the game of working for someone else, and you see a patch coming, start adapting now. Let's focus on the things that we do have control of. What books are you going to read? What functions are you going to attend? Doctors go to conventions all the time in order to keep up with the newest changes and progress that's happening in medicine. They keep growing or their patients die. What are you going to do? How are you going to adapt to the game patches as they are released? If this video helps one person, one fellow gamer adapt their way of thinking, if this video helps one person grow into the type of person that they have always dreamed of becoming, then my time has been well spent. If this video has helped you in any way, leave a comment down below and tell us how. And until next time, keep moving forward, y'all. We'll see you on the next one.